A speaker or a writer tries to impart his views to an audience. At a superficial level, this seems quite simple and obvious. If the speaker's views make sense, then everyone in the audience will understand them and incorporate the most useful points or parts of the speaker's views into their own. The fruits of the knowledge and experience of the speaker will be passed on to each of the audience members. Knowledge will be shared and preserved. This is the way we teach. This is the way we learn. Simple. At a deeper level, each individual in the audience already sees the world through their own laboriously constructed lenses. Different things will appear variously untrue and true, depending on the particular already established worldview of each individual audience member. Many or most of the audience members are not aware of their personally constructed views of reality and will believe they are directly observing what is going on. Yet this is never actually the case. If the speaker's view of the world has a bluish tint, so to speak, for example, only those audience members who have some sort of a bluish tint in their views will resonate strongly with what the speaker is saying. The others will hear something quite different, or they will understand a smaller portion of what the speaker is sharing. This is why we're so often only preaching to the choir, only to those whose views are highly compatible with our own. This is also why propaganda, which creates, reinforces, and verifies carefully chosen views, is the most powerful influence shaping reality in the world today. We often get our views of reality from widely popularized propaganda, slogans, and common knowledge we've never deeply investigated. We're bombarded by short, repeated messages hundreds of times a day that become so ingrained we hardly notice them. We eventually become locked in our own allowable thought cages, cages formed by the habits of thinking and orienting that bar us from thinking differently, in new or unpopular ways. Each person walks around in a cloud of their own beliefs, assumptions, preferences, and conclusions. Habits of looking, feeling, thinking about a host of things they take to be common sense. These are obvious things that are universally perceived and accepted by just about everyone, except maybe for a few crazies who simply need to be ignored. Our worldviews surround us with a perceptual lens that governs what we see, what we believe, what we feel, what our priorities are, and the types of decisions we tend to make. Yet we actually play a far more influential role as individuals in creating, or at least passively accepting, officially sanctioned and popularly accepted truths than we may typically take responsibility for. To better understand how our worldviews surround us as a cloud of apparent reality, imagine that they extend a certain distance around us in every direction. They are not simply spherical. Our knowledge and awareness extend around us to a limited distance in multiple directions. In certain areas, we have greater knowledge and so can see further in those directions we've more deeply explored and learned about. In other directions, we have less knowledge and experience and so cannot see as far as we can in some others. This is just the way we are. Nothing I can say here will change this. This seems to be our nature as individual human beings. The reason to bring these very basic issues to the center of our attention is that we're typically unaware of our conditioned habits, beliefs, and assumptions. As a result, they wind up driving us through our lives without our noticing what's guiding us in our decisions. We typically don't get much of an opportunity to consider which of our views serve us or complement our personal values. We just seem to have them. We carry them around, yet all the while they also contain us. We're caged by the assumptions we've made and the fixed conclusions we've reached, largely unaware of how much they limit us and constrict what we see and understand. We tend to stiffen over time with the fixity and rigidity of deeply ingrained habits of thought, feeling, and action. I'm not suggesting you change anything in your particular mindset, your collected set of personal assumptions. I'm not suggesting you modify your views to make them more similar to or more compatible with mine, as so many salesmen and propagandists implore you to do. I'm just suggesting you become more aware of your guiding values and principles, and then make up your own mind what you choose to believe. Decide not to continue to be driven by unconscious directives, orientations, and propaganda you might actually reject if you ever got a good look at it. Something to think about, or not, if your conditioning is dead set against thinking for yourself. In this case, you've probably been convinced to look at the world a certain way by others who want you to think the way they want you to think. Very likely you've also learned to accept that thinking for yourself is too much trouble, and others can do it better than you can anyway, so why exert the effort? In this case, you're deeply under the influence of propaganda. In other words, you're allowing the thoughts others have implanted in your mind to govern the way you perceive the world and live your life. Well, only you can unlock your own mind cage. Or not, if you decide that's too much work. If you're interested in becoming more aware of the cloud of conscious, semi-conscious, and unconscious assertions and assumptions guiding the way you live, your map of reality, the cage for your mind you carry with you everywhere you go, you can find out more right now at theallowablethoughtcage.com, where you can view blogs, articles, videos, download a sample of my book, and more. Have a nice day.